Welcome to Stardust Stereo. I'm Parker McPhinney. I'm your host. Today is the 25th of August, year 2024. Today I'm going to talk about Mars ingressing into Cancer, which it will do coming up here on the 4th of September, year 2024. As we enter into September, a lot of shifting and movement and very emotional energy will begin to manifest. First of all, before Mars enters the sign of Cancer, Mercury will station direct on the 28th. So everything that's been put on pause or redo or retry or reorganization, all of the REs that may have been frustrating you for the last 3 weeks or maybe have been giving you an opportunity to rewrite and redo. Retrogrades are not necessarily bad. They're just sometimes frustrating when we want to go forward. And I mentioned this retrograde that's about to come to a closure because Mars entering Cancer will do so, as I said, on the 4th of September. But Mars is going to re-enter Cancer on January 6th, that very important date for the United States. Because what happens between September and January 6th is that Mars will be traveling through Cancer, and I will give you keywords of what that can imply. As Mars goes through the full 30 degrees of Cancer and enters Leo, we will be moving right along, and then the first week in December, Mars will turn retrograde in Leo. So then, January 6th, it will return to the last degree of Cancer. It will stay in Cancer until April 19th. So I know that's a lot of astrobabble. Let's just recap. On the 4th of September, Mars, the planet of action, the planet that rules the military, it rules how you go to do anything, in the sign of Cancer, which is all about emotions, has rulership over the stomach, has rulership over children, housing, food issues. So as Mars stays in Cancer during these fall months, and then it will enter into Leo on, I'm not making this up, I'm not. Mars will enter 0 degrees Leo 2 days before Election Day 2024 in the USA. These dates are so screaming drama, emotional drama, more drama. We usually don't think of Mars in Cancer as drama. We think of Mars in Leo as drama. But let me tell you, Mars in Cancer can be just as dramatic because it's extremely emotional. So what has emotional value to you, such as your housing, your food, your children, your security, those areas are worth fighting for. Mars is always about, what are you going to fight for? If it's, what are you going to fight for to achieve in your career? Or what are you going to fight for because you're defending yourself? It's still exuding an enormous amount of energy to stay on top. Mars is not interested in being second. Unless, of course, it's in Libra, and then it really wants to be number one, but the Libra takes over, and so it plays nice and sort of demurs. But inside, it wants to be number one. Mars always wants to be number one, whatever zodiac sign it's in. In the case of Mars in Libra, it will just be coy to become number one. So let's start back to the very beginning of Mars going in to Cancer, how you can utilize this, and then I will enter into the political realm a little bit because it is going to play a huge role in our never-ending bickering in the United States. I know the DNC just came out with the keywords of hope and joy. Hope and joy do not necessarily put food on your table or give you affordable housing or stop the oceans from rising. They are great keywords and a fabulous attitude to have, but we still need a plan. And the sooner that Kamala Harris, Vice President, seeking president, gives an interview, the better it's going to be for her. She needs to face that dragon, and I do think she's avoiding it for a particular reason. One of my favorite moments in the DNC was when those cute little girls were guided in explaining to the audience how to pronounce her name. That was priceless. I really did enjoy that moment. And for a second, I forgot about all the bickering that everybody is so sick of. And unfortunately, that bickering will continue when Mars enters Cancer. Now, Mars is, like I said, about defense. And so what you will find as it travels through this sign of let me protect mine, people will become aligned with where their security lies. They will not deviate from this in any manner whatsoever. And anything that is emotionally charged, which Mars in Cancer gives readily to you, will become super proactive, super defiant, and marching to defend the fort. What has to be utilized in its highest capacity is the ability to fight fairly, because the ingress chart of Mars entering Cancer, ingress means entering, is showing that Mars will be in an exact square to the moon in Libra. Libra, like I said earlier, is all about, being coy, being fair, having harmony. Mars in Cancer does not necessarily like to fight, but it will fight with such emotional passion that it will just obliterate Moon and Libra. So unfortunately, we have to give ourselves the tools to remember there's fair fighting and there's not fair fighting, and align ourselves with the medium way of learning how to agree to disagree and have our manners and not feel so threatened that we just lose our cool about everything, because we are seeing all across the world, people are just losing their cool about everything, and they're just being horrendous in their human behavior. So when we have an ingress of Mars chart with the moon exactly squaring that Mars, we know, or I know, and I'm sharing with you, that fair fighting will have to really be made a top priority. Mucho top. With the moon in Libra square Mars, you will have to be extra careful about retaining your manners and erring on the side of hospitality, harmony, and equanimity. Venus is in Libra, so you have a little help there. The South Node is in Libra. You can remember in the past when it was so easy to be complimentary or silent. One of my teachers suggested that we all be silent until March. Yes, I think that's very good advice, especially in certain areas. Now, Mars in Cancer also deals with female reproduction rights, so we're going to see that raise its head even more. And this deals with childhood issues, and one of the predominant things with Mars in Cancer is how do we keep the children safe? So we cannot ignore issues that come up that are dealing with children right now, or our food supply, or how we grow food, or also our soil. Is the soil good? How are we going against that? Make sure what you're fighting for is worth the effort. Make sure that everything that you do to move forward has not only your best interest at heart, but also the other person is not cheated. Mars in Cancer deals with stomach issues. It deals with baby men. Yes, men who are babied by their mother, overprotected, never allowed to grow up, never cut the umbilical cord. Always, stay very close to mother. At some point in your life, you have to cut the umbilical cord, all right? And that's true if you're female or male, but especially so looking at this Mars ingressing Cancer for men. Mars deals with our military. When a person is still learning how to deal with Mars in Cancer, they can be extremely defensive. So finding a mediator to come in and balance things are super important. Childhood issues can come up. You would be amazed how long people hang on to childhood issues. I have talked to people, through my astrology, helping people. There are literally people that have the unfortunate habit of hanging on to a grievance that carries through their entire adult and old age life. They just won't let it go. They just can't. And it colors how they view the world. I'm encouraging you to let things go that are not important, because Mars in Cancer is like the crab. It will go sideways. I don't know if you've ever seen a crab walk, but it does not walk in a direct forward fashion. No. It goes sideways. So we will also see with our defense mechanisms, as long as Mars is in Cancer, people will be a little bit passive-aggressive, or a lot passive-aggressive, and they will go sideways and around everything to not directly address the issue if it's too painful. I remember reading Krishnamurti had a argument with somebody. I forget the finer details, but somebody found out, it might have been within his own family, that he had been unfaithful, and he got so defensive. This is an enlightened man. Ego came up. His Mars is in Cancer. It was too close to home. Couldn't face it. I have no ego. Of course you have an ego. Everybody has an ego. Your ego may lay down, but if you're behaving inappropriately, that ego is not laying down. China will be affected by this Mars in Cancer, as will Australia and Canada and Israel. And what's going to come on the plate in a big time way is whether we continue to give military aid to Israel because of the atrocities that are happening in Gaza. Gaza, Palestine, completely affected by this Mars in Cancer, and it squared their Mars in Aries. And if you think that Hamas can ever be fully destroyed, you are living a pipe dream. Palestine has Mars in Aries. It will never happen. So we have to find a way for a two-state solution. That is a very unpopular topic with the leader of Israel, who's going to be having some real headaches coming up. And especially if we get strong about the money. But I'm not so confident that we will. And Kamala Harris, oh, I said it right. Oh my goodness. I watched that video. Kamala Harris, Vice President Kamala Harris, needs the young people's vote. They, a portion of them, are very much against forever supplying Israel with the weapons that are burning up Gaza's children. Babies are being burned. This bothers a lot of people, just as it bothered a lot of people about the October 7th attacks. That bothered people too. War bothers people. And unfortunately, Mars in Cancer is an indicator of an emotional war. I have one question for you. What was going on for you on May 1st, 2024? Have you found out if it was good for you emotionally? Any decisions that were made during that time? Have they worked out for you emotionally? Because on May 1st of 2024, Mars was in Aries. So where Mars is going to be starting the 4th of September, it will be in a square to that position. So you need to do a little review, and what needs, Mars in Cancer is about your needs, were met, or maybe now need to be reviewed. If you are in a legal dispute that involves property, it's going to get ugly. It will take a lot of work to find the halfway point. Mars in Cancer increases shark attacks in the water. It also represents our water, oceans, seas warming up and what that cost is. Mars in Cancer deals with public funerals, very public funerals. Now, I was hesitant to bring this next issue up, but I'm going to be brave and do it anyway. Mars in Cancer will conjunct America's Venus, that's money, that's also high-profile females. It will then conjunct our Jupiter, that's our trade agreements, our philosophy as a nation. And then it will later conjunct our Sun. Then it will move into America's 10th house. I use a particular chart, July 4th, 1776, 12:15 p.m. LMT time, Philadelphia. That shows that in our country there are huge shifts happening. And within those shifts, some of them will be emotional. And on the 1st of September, Pluto returns to Capricorn. And that's where America's Capricorn was when it was born. And that can indicate high-profile people in our political circles that leave the body. This would not just be anybody. This would be somebody substantially high-profile with a strong emotional tie to America that is mourned around the world. On September 22nd, Mars will be at the degree of our upcoming solar eclipse in October. And so my interpretation is an extremely important passing to the country of America would happen within the month before that eclipse. That eclipse is on October 2nd, so I would say a month from now till first week in October. Highly probable. And that changes the landscape. It is also possible that this will change the landscape of our election. I do not think that it is the vice president or Donald Trump, but I do think that it is somebody so significant that it will color the election. You can do your own intuitive figuring out of what I'm alluding to. It's very dangerous territory to travel in. Many astrologers feel it's negative to predict death, although it's okay to predict a birth. I've never figured that one out. Well, I do understand that. That has to do with our American perspective that we will never look at death, even though it's the one thing that we're guaranteed to face in our life. The second we're born, we're closer to our death. But no, let's never look at it. And yes, you can see death in the chart, just like you can see birth. And I would like to also add that there are many ways in which we have the experience of death and then rebirth. So America's about to go through a major death rebirth cycle. And it will be a shock to people. This Mars in Cancer also is about shoring up our bridges. And that's literal and figurative. It's about the Supreme Court and judges and unpopular legislation. And all of that gets triggered right around the week of September 22nd, which actually happens to be the ingress of the sun in Libra. I've heard a lot of press about we're never going back. The only thing that I want to say in regards to that is the stars actually indicate we are. I don't know that this means Donald Trump is going to win. I don't know who's going to win. And I have a notoriously bad record of picking presidential elections because of bias getting in the way. So I do want to say that whoever wins will be returning to issues that are predominant in American politics because Mars will return to the 29th degree of Cancer on January 6th and then again on April 17th. So that means some unfinished business will be returned to. Again, the dates when Mars is going retrograde, it will be on the 6th of December, and then it will go direct on February 24th. That's when you get a chance to redo things and return to building what was left unbuilt. It would behoove both parties to spend an enormous amount of attention to the laborer, because the laborer, the person that labors to make their keep, we're about to celebrate Labor Day, is the person that they need the vote. And they're the people, the laborer, that are hurting the most, and they are angry. And remember what happened last time? The Democrats did not pay attention to the body of people in this country that were frustrated and angry. Now, during all of this, we will be having a lunar eclipse, September 17th, right close to that ingress of the sun in Libra, when this Mars in Cancer is really being shook up. So pay attention to that third week in September to get a clue which way this election is going to go, if that is close to your heart. Ask yourself what you need to feel safe, secure, and have a full belly, and give 100% of your energy to that. Learn to refrain from starting flame wars online or anywhere else. Oh, fire season. It's going to be brutal. I wish I had better news about that, but Mars in Cancer is without a doubt not an easy transit of it because of the emotionality that fuels that acting energy out. So if you're an actor, man, you will have lots to draw on. If you're an artist, you can fuel your creative geniusness in a great way. If you're building a house, no delay will stop you from completing that project. And if you have to protect your homestead, you'll do it with such thoroughness that nobody will ever breach your front door. The other thing to keep in mind is as long as Mars is in the sign of Cancer, every 2 days the moon changes signs, and that is the dispositor of Mars in Cancer. So you will see people go through huge mood shifts. You will have to retain your anchor of equanimity at all cost by realizing that the ocean does not stay turbulent forever, and that the tide goes in and the tide goes out. So relax and just watch the show. It will be changing every 2.5 days. I'm Parker McPhinney. This is Stardust Stereo. Thank you for listening. I'd like to thank my patrons. You know who you are. If you wish to become a patron, you can do so at patreon.com/ParkerMcP. And I want to remind you, you are made of stardust. So go shine.